All right, let's get into the Wednesday night betting card in the association. And we'll start it here with the first game we want to get into. That is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers. They are headed to Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Knicks. Knicks, currently as it stands on DraftKings, are a 9.5 point home favorite in this game with a total of 232 and a half. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, Joel Embiid has been officially ruled out. And Mac, I'll get your thoughts on this because I feel like he's played his final game of the regular season and possibly, in my eyes, as a member of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Ooh,
Um, as far as the other injury reports does go, Paul George is available to play. Eric Gordon is also done for the season. He opted for wrist injury. Kyle Lowry is also out. And then Yabu Selly is also out for this game for the Philadelphia 76ers. Tyrese Maxey is not listed on the injury report. I know he had been dealing with a finger injury, but he did play in the last game against the Chicago Bulls where they got their doors blown out. For the New York Knicks side of things, OG Anunoby is probable for this game here, Mac. Mitchell Robinson is going to be out for this game. The big question mark for this game will be Karl-Anthony Towns. He's dealing with a left knee injury. It was the last game for the Knicks where it was against Boston, I believe, that Cat left with some type of knee injury, did return, but again, you could just see when he returned in that game, he just did not look right. So I would not be surprised if he does miss some time here, but officially listed as questionable right now in this matchup. But nonetheless, Mac, Knicks laying 9.5 hosting the lowly Sixers.
I think you got a motivated favorite here. My numbers make it 9.5, or nine, so you're not missing out on much value, I think. And I kind of struggled with. I reevaluated Joel Embiid. I had him worth 5 points. He clearly I can't have him worth 5 points. Is he worth 2 points? Is he worth 3.5 points? Ended up making him worth 3.5 points. So that technically makes the Sixers better. But I think there's a whole. I mean, because they're losing less without him because he hasn't been as productive this year. But I think the emotional side of losing him, of having the season be completely restart, makes me at least question their motivation on a night-to-night basis. I think Tyrese Maxey's tremendously overrated whenever he hasn't had an MVP candidate alongside him. He hasn't looked that great. When Embiid was out last year, he didn't look that great. He hit some big shots in the playoffs, but I think the Knicks, after losses to the Cavs and the Celtics, are and almost lost to the Bulls. They're going to have some angst that they want to exercise, and I think the Sixers are a great place to do it. So no value on the line, but I think the motivational factors makes me lean heavily towards the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks coming off of two straight losses here against the better competition or teams that are above them, I should say, in that Eastern Conference, and the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. And for the Sixers team, I mean, look, they've lost 8 games in a row. They've lost 9 out of their last 10 games, 10-20 at home this season, 10-17 on the road. They're just 3-8 within their own division. 14-23 within the Eastern Conference. And I think that you're right. I think the motivational spot here for the New York Knicks just to kind of get right spot, right? Because you want to get the sour taste out of your mouth after losing 2 straight games against a better competition. Possibly going to be without Cat here. But again, if you watched any of that Chicago Bulls and the Sixers game, you could see how bad. And I think I don't want to say turmoil in the locker room, but the season is pretty much lost here for this Philadelphia 76ers. They're sitting 2.5 games out of the 10th spot of the Chicago Bulls right now. Like I mentioned, I don't expect Joel Embiid to play for the remainder of the regular season. Paul George has been a shell of himself, focusing more on the podcast than anything for Paul George. And you mentioned Tyrese Maxey doing the best that he can. But again, he's also been dealing with knick-knack injuries as well. But I think this would be a big game here for Jalen Brunson. You know, if Cat doesn't play in this game, I'll look at some Josh Hart props, whether it's rebounding prop or maybe even a triple double, for Josh Hart. I think that it would be a get right spot here for the New York Knicks. So I'd be willing to lay the points here, -9.5.
So you
With
think this is you mentioned not only this season, that wouldn't shock me, but this might be the last game Joel Embiid has ever played with the Sixers. What do they do? This is the process. This is everything built towards a 30-year-old Embiid. What are they going to do without him?
So let me ask you this. You're the GM. Let's say you're Daryl Morey of the Philadelphia 76ers. You've seen what's transpired over the past couple seasons with Joel Embiid. What's your move? What would you do if you were the would you pick up the phone call and say, hey, look, Joel Embiid is available. You start over. What would your plan be for the Sixers team?
It's the hardest thing in sports, maybe. I don't know. Quarterbacks are pretty tough to get, but you need to start your conversation of championship viability with a guy like Joel Embiid, with a guy like Luka Doncic, with a guy like Anthony Davis, I would say. That's where it starts. And you add another one, and then you're off to the races. That's what they thought they had in Paul George. And I was not a fan of the process. This is my thing. I was not a fan of the process. I didn't think it was going to work. I didn't think it was going to establish the right principles and culture and good feeling amongst the team. And I didn't think it was ever going to work, and it didn't. That said, what would be more a new strategy? To blow it up now would be the process all over again. To say, okay, we're gonna have Embiid sit for the season, have George sit for the season, try to keep our pick so that the Thunder don't get it. And then, maybe in a couple years things will bounce right. Maybe we'll trade Embiid for more draft picks. I think the braver and harder thing to do is just be like, um, we start with no players and an injured Joel Embiid, and like Demonte Sabonis is 44 million. Joel Embiid's right around there. They're both max pet players. I would think Joel Embiid's just that much better, where he can play half the games, and I think I have more of a chance to win the championship with Joel Embiid than a guy like Demonte Sabonis. If you want to contend, you want to be relevant in All-Star Weekend, if you want to be a ninth seed or a seventh seed, all right, pay 44 million to a guy like DeMar DeRozan, a guy like Demonte Sabonis. If you want to win a championship, you pay a guy like Joel Embiid and you try to, I don't know, give him a personal trainer or something.
Yeah, again, I think they're the. I was telling last. I mean, it's Philadelphia, of course, but they'll boo you anytime that you can. But I think that Chicago Bulls game last night was really telling of number one where this franchise is at right now. But again, like I mentioned, I would just not expect Joel Embiid at least this season. We'll see what transpired in the off season because we saw maybe one of the craziest trades that happened at the trade deadline with Luka. I mean, we would not be surprised if anything, did happen with Joel Embiid. But at least for this game against the Knicks, he will be sitting um, on Wednesday night.